With Dig Dug's kill screen, what happens here is when the player completes round 255 of Dig Dug, the level counter wraps around back to 0, as it's only one byte, so it can only go to 0 to 255. And what happens is that it just starts a new round, and the round it displays is round 0 because it has wrapped back to 0. And what happens here is that immediately when the round begins, Dig Dug dies. Now what's happening here is Dig Dug has a subroutine that's used to calculate a certain value to find a table that has patterns for where the tunnels are drawn and where the enemies are placed. And the value for those tables can either be 0 or 14. Well, 0 to 14, because there's 15 different patterns. And what happens is that part of this calculation that's done to determine this number, 0 to 14, is that it subtracts 1 from it. And since this has wrapped around back to 0 on the level counter, it wraps it back to 255, which in turn produces garbage output for determining those tables where those patterns are stored. And so what happens is that you get enemies that are drawn in places where there's no tunnels drawn at all. You've got the rocks drawn on the same horizontal line where Dig Dug is. And what kills you when the round begins is that there's a puka drawn on top of Dig Dug. In Donkey Kong, its kill screen appears when the player reaches the 22nd level of the game. And what happens here is that a programming oversight with the timer creates too low of a time to be able to complete the level. And what it does is that it does a calculation to determine the time limit for the level the player is on. The way it does this is it takes the level number, adds 4 to it, multiplies it by 10, and then multiplies it by 100. Now, what's happening when it reaches level 22 is that you're adding 4 to 22, multiplying that by 10, and then multiplying it by 100. So simplifying this, it's 100 times 260. Now the problem is that the 8-bit counter where 260 is rolls over at 256, like any 8-bit counter. And so it rereads as 100 times 4, and you only get 400. In which case, you get too low of a timer to be able to complete the level, and when the timer reaches 0, Mario dies. And it just repeats this until the player has lost all their lives. In Duck Hunt, with its kill screen, what happens is when the player completes level 99 in the game, the counter rolls over to 100. However, the programming doesn't support having a counter of 100 in the game. And so what happens is when the round starts, the ducks end up getting drawn all over the place, making them really hard to hit. However, it is still possible to hit the ducks, even though they are all over the place. And now, not every duck appears during the kill screen round, because you can't hit all of them, because there's points where you'll see the dog laugh and then go back down waiting for the next one to come up, and he'll come back up laughing again, and then no duck ever appears. And so it's impossible to get through the kill screen round, because even if you can hit the ducks that do manage to appear, you won't be able to hit any of them, well, all of them, actually. With Junior Pac-Man's kill screen, I can pretty much only say from what I've seen of it. I can't really depict the code because I haven't seen it or much of any information about it. But what happens is when a player is in level 146, in Junior Pac-Man, they get this map or screen where the area for Pac-Man is not drawn out. It's either drawn at the bounds of the screen, you can see a little bit of it, but it's not visible on the screen. And the other strange behavior that you see on this level is the way that Junior Pac-Man and the Ghost move around. They almost are freely able to move about instead of being confined. So that's the Junior Pac-Man kill screen. With Mrs. Pac-Man, the kill screen here is when the player reaches level 134 in the game. They get presented with an upside down screen with everything being turned upside down except for Mrs. Pac-Man and the ghosts. And what happens here is there is a routine that writes the slow ghost bits. And what these are is when the ghosts cross a certain point in the screen, they slow down. And this actually starts 2 levels before 134. It actually starts in level 132, and an observant player would notice it when they're playing the game on that level, because the routine starts getting bad output data. It starts writing different memory blocks than what it should be doing. And one of the places it writes is it puts a slow ghost bit right under the right energizer. And anyone playing level 132 and seeing the ghost going by that energizer will notice that they slow down. Now these slow ghost bits are actually supposed to be written where the tunnels are, so when the ghost goes through the tunnels, they're supposed to slow down. But part of the problem is that where the bits have been written so that the programmers can be able to put them on both the right and left sides of the screen, they had to put 4 of them along the top. And this ends up creating trouble in the routine when players get later in the game, up to 134 especially. And it starts writing bad values in level 134. And one of the values it writes actually causes the screen to flip upside down, along with several other memory addresses that it should not be writing to. And this in turn causes the upside down kill screen. And for the well-known kill screen, we come to the Pac-Man kill screen. And this one here gets caused by an integer overflow with the level counter. So when a player completes round 255, it's trying to go above that to 256 and can't do that. And what happens is there's a routine for drawing the fruit that occurs in the levels. And like some of the others that have had these routines that rely on the level counter, it ends up producing garbage output. And what ends up happening is it attempts to draw 256 fruits on the screen. And it initially draws them along the bottom, starts with the cherry and goes all the way to the key. And then it starts drawing on the half right side of the screen, and there's a table that stores the fruits that you see on the screens. But the thing is, it writes beyond what is stored in the table, so that is why you start getting these hexadecimal values on the right side of the screen. It goes beyond the table, so it starts writing hex values in place of fruits.